Welcome back. I'm Crispy, and I like to respond to questions that I get that are intelligent questions that I think that other people struggle with in the role-playing hobby, including myself. This one in particular caught my attention. It's from Jake Kimball, 7425. He asks this. He says, what is the solution to break out of the chatter loop? I love the expression you use, the chatter loop. This, hey, we're in character now. That means we just have meaningless conversations constantly. This chatter loop that we can't break out of. I've never called it a chatter loop. What I would call it is talking head syndrome. We're all just sitting around now just chatting. Soon the fictional world becomes hazy, less distinct, kind of fuzzy as the conversation at the table takes over. And yes, we're in character, but is this what role-playing is? I think role-playing as the activity suffers a little bit when we fall into this talking head syndrome or chatter loops, which I do like your term, Jake. I'm going to use that. You had 3 potential solutions or things to tackle this problem. I do think that it can be a problem. We've watched some games together, haven't we, where the game just was this meaningless conversation about chicken and what is this? What are we doing? It's kind of dull. And dull is not great in a game that should be about conflict. Now, the conflict can be big, it can be small, the conflict can be external to the character, or it could be an internal character conflict. That's fine too. But there should be conflict. And the conflict isn't simply resolved by dialogue. There's an entire component to the world that we cannot ignore, we should not ignore, because it leads to this haziness of the fictional world. We're having a hard time picturing this shop that we've been in for the last hour just talking. What? No. Okay. Jake, back to your points. Your first one was, should we just have an out-of-game conversation, talk about the problem, address it that way, head on, so to speak? I think that's probably a good idea. I'm going to have some more thoughts on that. Too many NPCs, perhaps? Is the problem the GM who has way too many, a world that's so populated, crowded even, that the players feel like they can't do anything until they talk to a dozen people or more, and each one of those people is just going to talk and talk and talk and talk and has nowhere to be and doesn't have any time pressure. They just kind of are there. I'll stand here for as long as the dialogue is needed. Or is it a player problem? Do you just have players that aren't good and you need more proactive players? Yes, of course. That's always the problem. But don't burn any bridges here, Jake. I don't want you to do that. I want you to try to help everyone in the game get more out of it, not simply kicking everybody that doesn't toe the line. There is a time and place for that, of course, but at the same token, I always assume that these are people that you enjoy spending time with, and so we're not really going to go with the nuclear option right away. Let's start with something small. This is speaking to that first point of yours, which was the out-of-character conversation, and a little bit about that player problem. Let's combine those two. I think that you can have a conversation wherein you define what you expect from a turn and what you expect when you say, I want to see roleplay. This is a role-playing game. It's role-playing that we're looking for. Well, what do we mean by that? Now, my friend Max has a great definition. I use his definition. I recommend it. I'll link the video in the comments below. You should go check it out. But in essence, in-character roleplay is not just what your character says or saying it in first person, which I prefer, as the character. So it's not just you assuming the voice of the character. It's also the physicality of the character that you're assuming too. Don't forget that. When you step into that role play, it's not just, okay, now we're speaking in character, we must be role playing. No, that's only a component. The other component is where that character is in the world and the movement of that character. It's your responsibility, player and GM, to be moving the characters around in the world. Now, GM, why did I include you? Because when you're when you're role-playing those NPCs that populate your crowded world, to me, a crowded world sounds great. I don't see that as being a problem. But you should also be aware that you may be contributing, even inadvertently, to this problem of the chatter loop or the talking head syndrome if you're forgetting that your NPCs also have a physical nature to them. You should describe, where are they? What are they doing? Is there an action they're taking? Are they fidgeting? Are they walking? Are they pacing? Are they looking at their watch? Are they glancing at their cell phone again, like they're expecting a call? Are they leaning up against the bar? Are they drinking from a glass? Those sorts of physical reminders are an important component and help avoid this talking head syndrome where the world becomes indistinct, ill-defined, hazy. We forget about where we are. Where are we again? I can't remember. I don't know. We've just been talking to one another forever. I want you to talk to another in character. Don't get me wrong. But there should be an expectation that it's not just the dialogue, but also where you are. Now, I alluded to this. Do you have a crowded world? I just said I think that's kind of neat. I like it. Well, something that I think will help with this problem is to enforce time pressure. The world exists. This fictional world we're pretending exists. And because it exists, time exists. Those NPCs that are filling the the quest lists of the party, they have their own time pressure. They have their own motivations. They are doing something. They were doing something before the party arrived. They're looking to do something after the party arrived. They're not just spawning to existence without any kind of background. You don't have to have huge paragraphs for each one of them. It's just this simple. What was this NPC doing before this conversation? Were they interrupted by the party? Or are they interrupting the party? If they're interrupting the party, then I can only assume that it's because they have something that is pressing that they need addressed right away. Or they're trying to purposely delay the party because they're hoping that something else transpires. Again, time pressure exists. If the party is going to have a long conversation around the fire, that's fine. Dawn is still approaching. The rooster will crow. The sun rises. And now things happen. Things are always happening in the world. And those that who populate your world, they're aware of this time. They exist in that time. I hope that helps. I don't want to get too weird. I'm more of a praxis guy. But I think that will really help to reassert and emphasize the passage of time. Yes, you can have a conversation in my shop about what you think you might need on your camping trip out to the mines of Fendelver. But after a period of time, me, the shopkeeper, I'm annoyed. I have other paying customers or I have work to do. Are you going to buy something or are you going to get out? That's reasonable. That's not you just messing with the players, which... Again, you can. That's all right too. In fact, one comment, and this is to your last thing, and I'll close with this one because I think it's important. It's really important. I want this one. No one's going to watch this far, but if they did watch this far, this one's the real nugget. Because you've already had the conversation with your players as to what constitutes a good turn, what I'm saying, what I do, where I am, you can also now pay close attention to whether or not those turns are of equal length. Are those players taking turns that are equivalent to one another? If they're not, and this becomes a conversation between two of them or between an NPC and that player, it's entirely appropriate, and perhaps even a good practice, to remind the rest of the table that they have turns too. They don't go on pause while this conversation is happening. Something else is happening with them. And what does this look like in practice? Well, what I've found works for me, and I'd recommend trying this, is that if you have a conversation that's going and there's just a natural, organic back and forth between 2 or 3, and there's a few that aren't taking turns, it's entirely appropriate for you to just say in their character name, just indicate your turn. They're all talking and talking and talking, except for those 2 players there. They haven't said anything yet. Well, we better kick it over to them as a reminder. Now, they may not want to be in the conversation. That's fine. They may just stoke the fire or check their watch or pull out their phone. Indicate that they're there and that time is passing. So sometimes these chatter loops it's just 1 or 2 very bavard players. And we don't want to pour a bunch of cold water on those players because we're excited that they're engaged, but in the game, and they're right in it, and they are in character, but they should avoid that talking head syndrome. They need to remember it's not just the conversation, what you say, it's also where you are and what you're doing. And everyone should get a turn saying that. I hope this helps, Jake. It's a great question. I would recommend, if you have a chance, take a look at some of the games that you'll see, the 4D style game, because you're going to notice that even outside of combat, there still is an identifiable turn order. We're making sure that everyone gets a chance to have a turn. And I think that might be of some assistance to you, or at least give you some ideas, things you could try in your own game. Appreciate the questions. Thanks for watching this. Those of you got this far, congratulations. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.